Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. I am the most burned out cyber new type, Jared the Greek. Today, we're here to talk about Witcher Mercury, episode 12, the end of the first season. It actually took me a few days to get around to this for a couple reasons. One, Anime Los Angeles was quite exhausting, ran multiple panels, hosted the dance, and played a lot of D&D. And yeah, it just kind of burned me out by the end. But also the fact that after watching this episode, I didn't know if I could review it without getting really angry. And upon watching it the second time, I actually disliked this episode even more. So without further ado, let's get started. The episode begins where the last one left off, with Sophie threatening Suletta and Miorine being hurt. We also then see the movement into getting the defenses of the plant up and running, while Suletta runs away from Sophie as Sophie tries to take pot shots at her to force Suletta into getting into the aerial. Miorine gets separated from Suletta and ends up stumbling into her father, and then she joins the evacuation group. Meanwhile, we're getting a fight in space between the guards of the plant against the mercenaries who arrived in the last episode. More or less, it's a lot of spray and pray, but it's nice to see Gundam actually having Gundam in the show. It's nice. We're watching giant robot fights in space. Wow, what a concept. In addition to that, there's some nice world building in this moment where you find out that the mercenaries are using ballistic ammo, and apparently that's illegal because they're leaving space debris everywhere because the slugs they are firing out of their gun become space debris. And for anyone who knows about space debris, it is incredibly dangerous. And I like the fact that they made it illegal to use firearms in space, and that might be the reason why we see a lot more beam weaponry in this series. I do appreciate that as a nice touch to world building. As the episode progresses, the Earthdorm kids try to make their escape. The guards, of course, use the antidote system against the mercenaries, and obviously Suletta joins the battle. Anything beyond that is going to be a major spoiler, and we will get to those in the spoiler section. Even though the spoilers of this episode don't really add up to much, because the story and the stakes as presented in the series have not been all that great. In terms of characters, since this is an action-oriented episode, we don't have a lot to look into. However, I will discuss Miorine a little bit. In this episode, you see her interact with her father again, but now in a crisis situation where the general anger she has towards her father is played down quite a bit due to the fact that this is a crisis and sometimes you need to focus on what's more important. You even see Miorine trying to help her dad after he gets wounded, and it shows that she does actually care about her dad. She just doesn't like the position that he has put her in due to his role in the Benneret group. Frankly, I like that. That's a nice expansion of her character and makes her relationship with her father significantly more complicated. As opposed to, say, Suletta, that does whatever her mother tells her without question, which, again, makes me not like the character because Suletta lacks agency. Nika and Gyul both have their own agency in this episode and play their part in how the battle unfolds. It's crazy to think our main character lacks agency. You're the main character. Do your job. Think for yourself and try to save the world. It doesn't seem like it should be that hard for a Gundam protagonist. There isn't any real character development beyond that, because this is Witch from Mercury, and God forbid we ever have good writing. Let's move on to aesthetics. We have quite a bit to talk to when it comes to mobile suits, and I'll try to cover all of them as best I can. First, we have the two Lefrith units, the Lefrith and the Lefrith Thorn. There's only so much I can say about these units, as we only see a few of their weapons in the course of this battle. We do know they have beam sabers, they have that Gatling gun thing, which is pretty sweet, the heavy laser cannon, they're relatively fast, and like the aerial, have an anti-antidote. That doesn't sound right, but whatever. They have countermeasures to the antidote system. That makes more sense. Overall, they seem incredibly fast and incredibly powerful, but we still don't have any idea as to who developed these mobile suits. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the trips Mother took to Earth that are referenced in Cradle Star, which I did an audiobook for, which I promoted about 1,000 times in the course of this review series. But I'm sure on her trips to Earth, these were developed as either predecessors to the Ariel or developed alongside the aerial. However, like many of the designs in this show, there is the tiny waist and weird-looking legs, which I still don't like, but since the Lefrith had them, obviously the offshoot units will have them as well. As for the aerial, it does get a redesign in this called the Aerial Rebuild. It contains new chunky shoulders with a bunch of jet boosters on there, so she's more functional in space. It has a giant super laser that all the funnels can transform into, and otherwise it's very similar to the original aerial. We haven't seen anything else beyond the maneuverability upgrade and the super weapon. It looks kind of cool. I kind of dig the larger shoulders, to be honest, but it's just the aerial with a few parts glued on, so Bandai can sell a different Gunpla kit. Guarding the base is a modified version of the Demi Trainer called the Demi Garrison. This is an interesting looking unit. It is quite chunky and bulky comparatively to the Demi Trainer, and of course it functions as the cannon fodder in the course of this episode. As I predicted, the Demi Trainer was going to be the gym type unit for this story, and yep, the Demi Garrison fills that role of the cannon fodder, but we need good guy suits fighting to try to hold off the enemies. One of the key problems with the Demi Garrison is that it has the same scrawny legs, but a big upper torso, which to me means if it was on Earth, it would just topple over, or the legs would be so strained to carry that much weight. I don't know how well it would actually function. For space, I can let it slide like many of these toothpick-legged units, but I don't think any of these would be particularly effective in a gravity-based area. In addition to that, we also see two other new units that aren't even named, much like the Demi Garrison. According to what I could find, they are called the Hindri and the Hindri Sturm. These units appear to be used by Cathedra, as far as I can tell. They have a cool looking shield and spear kind of thing, but again, don't get much spotlight because, like the Demi Garrison, they're basically there to be cannon fodder. Then we have the Jaturk units. There are two that really get the spotlight in this. The first, of course, is the Dalanza Soul. This unit is actually used by President Jaturk. It is very bulky, which is pretty cool. It shows that there's extra armor on this unit, and it has missile launcher shoulders. So you can tell that President Jaturk, when he was younger, probably had a specific style of fighting that set him apart from his son and from other pilots we've seen thus far. It's a pretty cool looking variant, to be honest. And I do wish we had a little more time with that unit. Then we have the Desultor, which we get to see in combat more in this episode than we did in the previous one. It's generally fast, it's equipped with a beam saber, seems to have some very simplistic weapons. Like I said before, I'm fairly certain it's just kind of an advanced grunt suit. It might be an older unit, just based on the fact that the mercenaries have them, and if President Jaturk is going to be using a Dalanza, I doubt he'd be using a out-of-date model. So while I thought these would be between the Dalanza and the Dilbrade, I think it's actually a pre-Dalanza unit. But again, we don't have a lot of information, nor do we have a model number, so this is all speculation until we get more information, probably via the toys. Overall, the mechs throughout these 12 episodes, 13 if you're going to count prologue, have been back and forth for me. There are things I like. Some of the weaponry is pretty cool, especially like how they have combined weapons and things like that. The Gund bits as unique funnels that can also do secondary things like become booster jets or combine into a weapon is pretty cool. Though we have seen things like that in other series, it is nice to see them again. However, the design of these suits really reminds me of the Iron Blood Orphan designs, where the legs and waist seem way too slim for what the unit's supposed to be doing. And it tends to make me wonder how someone is fitting in that cockpit. Even if these robots are giant, those cockpits have got to be cramped. If I didn't already make it clear in the beginning, I didn't really like this episode, and not for reasons that can easily be understood by watching the non-spoiler part of this. However, what I wanted in a season finale was some answers to some of the questions we've been having about the Ariel, about Suletta, about some of the corporate espionage, hell, even getting more answers about the Pale Corporation and things like that, and what the evil scheme is for Elon Prime, what the actual scheme is for Shattuck, things like that, and we got no answers whatsoever. While I do have spoilers I need to talk about, The spoilers weren't progressing the story spoilers, they were more character event spoilers. And overall, I'm just disappointed in how this episode turned out. If this was a mid-season finale and I knew that in a couple months I'd be able to watch the second half of season 1, and okay, this starts a change in tone, the other half of the season will continue, that'd be great. And even if season 2 comes a lot sooner, I don't even know if I care. I'll probably watch it just to conclude the series. I might even continue doing these episode by episode reviews. But to be honest, if the writing is going to be this bad, why should I stick with a show? I wanted to love this show. I was so hyped for this, a brand new main Gundam series, the first series in a long time I'd be watching episode to episode. I haven't done that since Gundam 00. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it. Finish the season. And if you have, join me for these spoilers because I have thoughts. So first off, let's talk about Gyul. Gyul has had an interesting journey through this show. He went from a total arrogant jerk, he got humbled a few times, so much so that he had to be out camping. He ended up leaving the school and working as just a generic worker instead of taking whatever job his dad was going to give him, even to a point that President Chaturk did not know what happened to Gyul after he left the school. Meanwhile, Gyul steals a mobile suit and goes off to try to defend the plant and, more importantly, defend his father, which, of course, the person he has to fight in space is his father, because this is Gundam and we can't have nice things. He does kill his father, but his father at least learns that Gyul is safe and that he's still pushing forward in life. We also get Gyul making reference to the fact that he hasn't moved forward with Suletta. So at this point, I think we can basically say, yeah, he doesn't have some sort of nefarious plan for Suletta. He legitimately likes her. And killing his father, of course, destroys him inside. And we're definitely going to see a very different Gyul in season 2. However, like I said, this is a really good personal moment, but doesn't really do a lot for the series as a whole. After all, Gyul is not our main character. He is a side character. And while I do appreciate this character moment, it does ring a little hollow because Gyul was a side character. It still feels like this would have meant more if we had spent a lot more time with Gyul as more of a main character and less of a side character. Our second thing to talk about is Nika. While the Earth dorm is planning their escape, Nika ends up sending a message out to the mercenaries to let them know that they are allies and shouldn't be targeted. One of the students sees her and starts to ask, what her deal is. And of course, we don't get a follow-up to that because God forbid we get answers to anything. But the enemy pilot does say something along the lines of, is she an ally of the prince? Which, who's the prince? And I would like to know more about that, please. For all the little world-building chunks we get here and there, we still know almost nothing about this world. And who Nika really is and what her deal actually is still remains shrouded in mystery, which is quite annoying because I really like Nika and I want that information, and it would be nice if we ever got told anything in this series. It's also interesting to consider what the consequences might be if someone else in the Earth dorm knows that she has some sort of secret. However, Nika's the kind of girl who could probably just talk her way out of that. Maybe saying that she just sent a Morse code thing in hopes that the enemy pilots would spare the ship full of students. We also see Lady Prospera just straight up murder some soldiers, which, okay, they're kind of in a war zone, that makes sense. But this causes Suletta to kind of freak out a bit, and understandably so, you just watched your mom shoot some guys. And Lady Prospera uses this as a moment to manipulate Suletta into letting her know that killing people who are threatening the people you care about is okay. And Suletta doesn't even question this. It doesn't even bother her personal ethos. She immediately accepts this, so she gets inside her mobile suit and goes out to fight against the mercenaries. With one of the most inconclusive and anticlimactic battles I've seen in Gundam in a very long time. She gets a little sword dueling in, a little shooting in, a lot of blocking with her funnels, uses her super cannon, shoots off the legs of one of the mobile suits, and that's kind of about it. She doesn't destroy the enemy ship. She doesn't take out any of the enemy units. They're all fine. Everyone's fine. So, yeah. Coolsies. We get a fight where no major consequences. Sophie just has an inconclusive battle with Ariel and wants to go fight her again. And the mercenaries leave because the mission's failed and they should just get out of there before more reinforcements arrive. So it's even a cop-out for the mercenaries to just go, and we're done here because the episode's almost over. Bye! If they had lost one or two of their units, they might think it's worthwhile to retreat rather than continue the battle. If they had a ship and it had gotten heavily damaged, they might want to pull away before the ship is destroyed. There's a lot of different possibilities for causing a retreat. Saying, I think our time's up, we gotta get out of here, is pretty stupid and feels on brand for the lazy writing of Witch from Mercury. The last spoiler to talk about is the ending stinger. The ending stinger features Miorine trying to take her wounded father to safety. She gets stopped by a mercenary with a rifle, and Suletta swoops in at the last second and freaking red mists the guy by slamming her hand on him and crushing him into nothingness. She then jumps out of the mobile suit and is like, hey, I rescued you. Sorry about the blood and guts and bones and crap that's all over your face, but I totally rescued you. And Miorine is rightfully freaked out by this, which is nice, but the problem is with the way this series is written, if there was an episode 13, it would just get hand-waved away. Miorine would be a bit upset. Suletta would explain, oh, but I did it because I care about you. And then she's like, please don't kill anyone ever again. And then we'd move on with life. An end stinger like that isn't enough to make me feel, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? It just makes me go, all right, that was gruesome. Thanks. This show sucks. In conclusion, this has been a rough watch for me, primarily due to the fact that I was really excited for this series. It looked like it had a decent writing staff. It definitely looked beautiful in the trailers. The character designs were but you know, I was willing to give them a chance. The mech designs I had some issues with, but I have issues with the IBO designs, and I still love IBO. There was a lot of positive going into this for me, and seeing a prologue and reading Cradle Star both put me in a mindset of like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so awesome. They're setting up all these things where you get cool reveals and amazing moments and some drama and some violence and some excitement. We got CW garbage and 2 Gundam style space fights in the very first and very last episode of this season. It's ridiculous. I wanted this to be good. Bandai came in saying, this is going to be the new big Gundam. This is going to be the Gundam that will make Gundam a global brand. It'll be just like Wing. It'll bring in tons of new viewers and bring Gundam to a new generation. And it's hot garbage. For every time there's good in this show, there's something that just holds it back, and it's almost all completely the writing. In the end, I'm not even really angry about this show. This isn't like Reconquista and G, where I started screaming, or Unicorn, where it just takes continuity and curb stomps it. This is just a poorly written show that feels like a major, major waste, because there's so much you could have done with this concept and this world, and you did nothing. And you're doing the whole, oh, watch season 2, that'll be the good season. Oh, la-di-da. I don't want to watch season 2. Witch from Mercury was not a good show. Beautiful, great background music, a couple likable characters here and there, but no real story, no real progression. Our main character is just as dense in the first episode as she is in the final episode. Nothing that occurred caused her to grow. And every time I thought she was getting growth, it immediately just got taken away. I hate to leave it on a down note like that, but what do you want me to do? It's just a crap season finale for a show that wasn't that good in the first place. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for my final Witch from Mercury video, my season 1 analysis. Until next time, I'm the Dapper Bard, and I'll see you at the tavern.